Welcome to the wonderful world of Ghost Horse Hollow. I'm your host, Severn Williamson, and this is My Family Book Nook. My Family Book Nook podcast is brought to you by the Owsley County Public Library in Boonville, Kentucky, and by Jackson Energy, a Touchstone Energy cooperative, and by Ghost Horse Gifts, featuring the fine intaglio jewelry and gemstone sculpture of artisan Jack Williamson. On the web at www.etsy.com/shop/ghosthorse-gifts. My Family Book Nook features the saga of the MacKennon homesteaders 100 years in the future in the Appalachian wilderness. Listeners may wish to follow along in the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow, available on Amazon Books and Kindle Readers, starting with Book 1, Turn of the Blade. My Family Book Nook also shares stories, myths, and legends from around the globe in support of world literacy, conservation, and cultural exchange. And now for our ongoing adventure from the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow. We left off in Ghost Horse Hollow with Panther MacKennon under the dead oak tree, escaping from the Coyote King on her beautiful mare, Elestial's Opal Moon. And now the exciting conclusion of the first part of the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow. With a riffling snatch, the young rider felt the cloak of wheels wafted up in the sweet night air. At the peak of the Cremello's daring jump, a miniature dart scraped across Panther's right shoulder. The girl continued on into the forest. Somehow the sharp point had managed to slip beneath her billowing cloak. Bending low over her horse's mane, Panther heard a terrifying rip. It could mean only one thing. The cloak's magic pattern was beginning to unite with the stars above. Constellations and galaxies spilled out of the girl's garment, heading rapidly toward the waxing moon. For Panther's accidental wound had broken Lady Hannah's spell of protection. The fabric spun by the first fairy queen to walk the earth, Lady Uvanova of the milk-white goats, was being utterly destroyed by the smallest of unforeseen weapons. From the midst of the fire circle, Panther heard Tormac's venomous laugh. In spite of his dangling predicament, the prince still had use of his hands and arms. Queen Titrimia had warned Panther in private that the Autumn Lord always concealed lethal darts beneath his rich attire. One of these had found its mark in the darkness. Elestial's Opal Moon plunged headlong into the woods where Panther grabbed at her wound. A sickening smell reached the girl's nose. Skull vein. Leave it to Tormac to use a poison-dipped dart. Panther's training with regard to the plant kingdom had been very thorough. Without an antidote, young MacKennon knew that she would be unconscious in 2 hours and dead by dawn. "Get back!" shouted Jonas Whitehand as each of the men scrambled for their ghost horse mounts. Three-Toe the bear emerged from his hiding place with a deafening roar. It was too late to stop his charging bulk. The heart of the beast thundered inside his ribcage. How dare the Autumn Fairy Prince throw a dart at his best friend? Three-Toe had witnessed Tormac's sneaky attack from behind the bear's strategic boulder. Miss Genevieve was but a tiny cub. Besides, the girl had once rescued Three-Toe from a nasty swarm of bees by using a complex singing charm. The black bear could stand it no longer. He lumbered forward on all fours, smacking coyotes left and right. Three-Toe easily penetrated the scraggly defenses surrounding Tormac, who remained pinned to the dead oak tree. "Three-Toe will kill the prince. We can't let that happen," MacKennon cried in alarm. "Aaron, Call the dogs. Create a distraction to the east of the tree. White Hand, work your way northward. I'll circle round to the south. Jake's orders could barely be heard over the confusion of barks, neighs, and snarls that engulfed the smoldering pit. Red and gold flames lit up the gnarled tree trunk from below. Tormac looked wildly at the enraged bear, who was making his way steadily toward the royal gambler's precarious location. If he destroys me, the Bear Clan will pay for its crime for the rest of time, Tormac screamed. Pull him back, Ploughman, or face the consequences. You, too, will be held accountable for my demise. Jake knew it was forbidden for a creature of the field or the forest to destroy a fairy of royal blood. Three Toe and his descendants would suffer indefinitely for such an offense. All the seasons would tumble out of balance if one of the guardians of the fall were to perish. Lady Aradia, the autumn fairy princess, could not uphold the season on her own. The Starlight Fairy King and the Moonlight Fairy King would issue a decree of persecution against every bear, as well as the MacKennon homesteaders for allowing such an offense. Somehow, the men had to shift Three Toes' half-ton of fury in another direction. Bugle! Bell! Cried Aaron Ray suddenly. Knock him down! The blue tick hounds obeyed their master's orders, in spite of the odds against their success. With the grace of two young deer, the dogs bounded across the scene. Like bullets from a rifle, Aaron's companion shot over the heads of the snapping coyotes. The canine's powerful shoulders bumped against the bear's heavy side. The effort was just enough to tip Three Toe off balance. He rolled sideways, tumbling with the hounds, landing a few feet in front of Tormac's overturned throne. In front of the throne lay the bear's precious fairytale book, covered with dust, blood, and muddy paw prints. Three Toes' angry mind shifted quickly, as was usual for his kind. He snatched the volume up in one broad paw and clutched it to his side. With his other forepaw, the bear spewed hot ashes from the fire in all directions, roaring until his back teeth gleamed. Three Toe headed for Grandfather Mountain and his library cave without looking back. The coyotes stared at Tormac, expecting their leader to rally, but the flying embers had set the prince's wings on fire. The blaze traveled quickly up the delicate veins of Tormac's leafy appendages. The autumn fairy prince would soon be free of the torturous axes, one way or another. Gravity, combined with fire, would drag him to the ground. Mount up, spread out to your positions, and meet me in the high meadow at dawn, Jake shouted, taking advantage of the opportunity to retreat. The farmer had confidence that Aaron Ray, White Hand, the Blue Tick Hounds, and Three Toe the Bear would survive, even if a few coyotes were foolhardy enough to pursue them individually. As everyone fanned out into the forest, the farmer looked back to see Tormac drop from the dead oak tree, a wingless but very much alive fairy. He could not distinguish the prince's commands. All he could make out was that 3 wild dogs were slinking forward to lick Tormac's boots. The Rough-Throat Brothers. Panther, where are you? Jake hollered. Tormac was sending the worst of his gang leaders to seek his revenge. Elevar's ivory steed jerked forward, heading for the safety of the trees. The stallion's hind legs strained up the steep incline of the wasteland as MacKennon fought for control. 2 hot-eyed coyotes were running to overtake his horse. Jake's mount reared at the top of the incline and lunged down a makeshift trail toward home. The horse's urge for survival was carrying the farmer further from his daughter. Elevar's ivory steed jumped high over a fallen pine that was blocking his way. Pebbles and shales scattered to the 4 winds. There was little light to see by. Overcoming a rising sense of panic, Jake MacKennon reached for his saddlebag. Where was Sir Phineas Glowgold? The soft leather cover flapped open to reveal an empty pouch. Jake tightly gripped his horse's belly with his long legs. All the farmer could do was to concentrate on keeping his seat. It was going to be a wild ride in near darkness beneath bristling evergreens. As soon as his stallion dared to slow down, the desperate father would head back through the rough ridges to hunt for his daughter, dead or alive. Thank you for listening to my Family Book Nook podcast. Subscribe to our blog at myfamilybooknook.blogspot.com and follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube at Ghost Horse Hollow and Ghost Horse Gift Gallery. To advertise with my Family Book Nook, contact Podbean's Pod Ads program for more information. Join us each Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time USA for another episode in the exciting saga of the MacKennon homesteaders, as well as stories from around the globe. Podbean.com podcasts are available through a convenient app on your PC, tablet, or cell phone. Listen anytime. We appreciate your sharing my Family Book Nook episodes with your friends and family on social media. Watch it grow. Special thanks to the lovely Price Sisters on the web at thepricesisters.com for our closing music. Follow me on Instagram _ghost_horse. This is Anne Severn Williamson, and it's been a pleasure